Meet Davis.
Hi.
Davis is from Pollock, South Dakota.
Yep.
We took Davis from Pollock to fish for pollock in Alaska.
Sure did.
The same wild-caught pollock in a McDonald's Filet-O-Fish sandwich.
Uh-huh.
There were boats, nets, waves.
And fish.
And some delicious Filet-O-Fish sandwiches. So you could say Davis is one lucky guy.
Good one.
Thanks, Davis.
Catch some pollock of your own with McDonald's Filet-O-Fish Fridays. Just $1.99 for a limited time. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer or any combo meal.
Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, folks. I was going to say morning. Good afternoon. It's Danny Tisdale, and it's the Danny Tisdale Show. And, of course, we are going to talk about Harlem as we always do on this Saturday. And I hope you're doing as well as I am. I have my tea right here. I've got a great guest that we're about to speak to, but as usual, I like to tell you what's going on in Harlem and what's going on across our platforms, and especially our website, harlemworldmag.com, and a few things that are trending. Teachers College continues to do great events, and they have a For Leaders to be Honored event at Teachers College coming up, and that's been trending. Also, what's been super trending is that a Harlem site that has been owned by the Dance Theater of Harlem was sold for $870,000 after the deed restriction was lifted, and that, my friends, is not how it should work. Let me just put it that way, and that has been trending. And I'm going to say last but not least, but of course not last. For the last almost 2 weeks, an article we posted from a site called Veteran Doe, and what they do is post veterans across the nation who are cold cases, and they have one of a gentleman who passed in Harlem in 1997, and we've posted on the site. It's a little strong. One of our strongest posts we've posted ever because it shows this gentleman's face as he passed after being, of course, cleaned up by doctors. But we're trying to find this man and help this site find him. Even though he passed in Harlem, we want to kind of complete this cycle and have him go to rest. So that's a couple, maybe should I say a few of the trending articles on the site. And if that's not enough for you, you can also check us out. Hit us up at twitter.com/HWMag and also at facebook.com/HWMag, and also our Full Force Harlem History Facebook page, which is Harlem History, and you can just check it out then and now and forever. But the best thing is that we have our guest, Lil Nickelson. She is, of course, a senior food editor, writer, columnist at Harlem World Magazine. She is a Harlem resident. I met her originally when she owned her first, I think it was her first food business in Harlem, and one of the best volunteers that you can find in Harlem is Lil Nickelson with her church in Harlem and other nonprofits around the area, and we think she's one of the driving forces behind the food industry that has taken off in Harlem the way it has. And thank you, Lil, for being on the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, Daniel. It's a great day here in Harlem. Nice weather we're having today. So I've been out enjoying it earlier today. Yeah.
Well, and I thank you for taking time out of the day with that beautiful weather. I know it's pulling you out there like a magnet, so I'm glad you're taking these minutes to spend with us. And so let's get started. I wanted to ask you initially, just right from the start, besides you, what has been the driving force of this, food revolution in Harlem?
Well, I have to tell you, when you said that, I started chuckling. I think that it's been the restaurant owners as well as the chef owners. who are making a difference when it comes to the diversity of the food choices that are now available within the Harlem community. There has been a lagging, though, when it comes to getting quality and fresh produce, and I'm going to say meats, as consumers to Harlem residents. It is an area that you have to be willing to travel to get necessarily the best price or even the best quality products. Not enough of us utilize our farmers markets.
Okay.
And,
All right.
and the services that they provide.
Yeah, Lil, but I thought that we had, let's see, best, I mean, no, it's not a judgment on, best market. I think the name of it is on St. Nicholas Avenue.
I go there.
We had Fairway on the west side.
I travel to the Upper West Side to the Whole Foods, although we'll have one by the signs that are up that I see in the windows when I pass by the construction site on 125th Street and Lenox. Whole Foods will be opening up at that location, it said in early 2017. And certainly they will also expect, but also the price of the prices that are going to be displayed in that Whole Foods is not going to be anything less than what you're paying at the Union Square or the Columbus Circle stores or the one on the Upper West Side, 197.
Well, Lil, we've posted some articles where they're talking about having a new separate area where a separate area might be the wrong words to use, but a new area where they will have competitive prices that are competitive to Harlem.
Well, something that I went to about a week ago, which I'll be writing a story on during the month, is on the Harlem food vendors that Harlem Park to Park, along with the Columbia Small Business Consulting Office, put together showcasing new vendors from Harlem who are looking to get their food products into Whole Foods and other establishments as well, too. And they had a food vendors fair, which was excellent. And so it's good to see that Harlem Park to Park is also involved in helping, and as well as the Small Business Development Corporation that's there at Columbia University. And I think that they're really looking to try to help people who want to own their own businesses get it together and provide them with services that we need to look into as we're talking about trending towards the end of this century. It's one of the areas, not only just the food business, but it's also owning our own businesses within our community specifically, and definitely in anywhere else we so choose to own them. But we've got to get into being more of a owner and less of just being the customers within Harlem. And I think that for our young people, that's the area that, as we talk about what trends, we need to encourage our youth to think about pursuing, owning their own, and not always being employed. There's nothing wrong with being an employee, but if you can reach for a higher goal and attain it, and if we can encourage them and give them the backing that they have, being an employee should not be our only option in the 21st century.
Right. And that's a great point. And I want to spin off of what you have said and what you're saying, because my next question I wanted to ask you, about some of the trends that are happening in Harlem, and how, if it is making it to our dining tables in Harlem. But I'll tie that in with something you said earlier, which is really having food that's healthy and cost effective. You think that there's a way of tying those two together as a business, and that's where some of the farmers markets, of course, are filling some of that gap. Correct or no?
Yes, it is. But getting the word out to us as community residents that we need to stop buying into the we don't have time to we're going to make the time to make sure that we're putting healthier food options, that we're teaching our kids about eating fresh vegetables and fruits and less on the sugary products, and we have to steer them in a way that they're fit for the fight of life. And what we're seeing, they say that the youth of today may actually have a shorter life expectancy than their parents, and that's our fault, because we've served them so much processed food.
Right.
And haven't taught them how to cook. One of your questions to me when we were talking earlier was why do I think there's been a blow up in food the way it has in Harlem, and it's because look at all of the millenniums of various ethnic backgrounds and sexual orientations that are now living in Harlem. They were raised by people who didn't teach them how to cook. They eat out. And so the dinner market here in Harlem is just, I think, very healthy and prosperous one. I've seen places that have tried to have lunch have had cut that out. So I don't think that they've developed necessarily a flair for how to successfully establish a breakfast or even a lunch I'll say within the Harlem restaurant industry. There are a few places that have had it, will continue, and there's definitely a price war at it. But for me, someone who's into the food, the lower the price that I see, I start wondering about the quality of what you're offering up to me.
So from what I hear you saying, that just at least at this little niche, I'm trying to spin it all back to, how we have this great food industry that's happening in Harlem. But obviously I hear you saying when it comes to fresh food and food at a reasonable price, and then on top of that, I hear you talking about kind of a need for quality, reasonably priced breakfast and lunch foods. The dinner seems to be covered, but when it comes to the breakfast and lunch, that might be where there's a need.
Yes, and also when I see less fast food places that offer you processed or semi-processed foods, as long as when I see them going on a decline in the number, that there are some parts of our neighborhoods where that's all you can basically purchase.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of processed or
processed
food,
right.
And that hasn't decreased. I have seen places close up that was offering healthier options, and it hasn't only been small businesses. Large franchise businesses have abandoned their locations within Harlem because they weren't pulling in
right. Didn't have the numbers
to pay for their expenses.
I hear you, and it is definitely an issue.
Yeah. So
Lil, we're almost at that halfway point, and what I want to do is a quick station ID. But what I want to do is kind of set this up and give you a teaser. And after I do the station ID, I wanted to come back and talk about, I think we've been in Harlem in the 20th century, where it was more about I think soul food, obviously with Sylvia's, and there of course others. And I wanted to ask you a little bit, as we look forward, about where do you think food in Harlem is headed? If there's trends or the cycle back to soul food. So that's what I'm going to ask you. But in the meantime, I'm going to do a quick station ID and let our listeners know that they're listening to the Danny Tisdale Show. And, of course, I'm Danny Tisdale, and it's all delivered to you by way of Harlem World Radio. And, of course, we're talking to Lil Nickelson, who is Harlem World senior food writer, entrepreneur, and what I like to think of as one of the seminal forces for creating the food industry, as I like to call it here in Harlem. She's talked about it. She's created it. She continues to live it. And she's here with us on the show to talk about what's been happening and what is happening in Harlem. And now I've asked her about the 21st century look into her crystal ball of food in Harlem. Where is it headed, Lil? Where do you think when we're talking about this 50 years from now, where do you think food will be in Harlem, trend-wise?
I think that food in Harlem will be representative of how food in America is. There have been so many ethnic backgrounds to come from their home countries to this country, and they've melded their cooking styles in with those that they like, that they picked up from these shores, which could be from a multitude of other ethnic backgrounds. And so I think you're going to see less emphasis on the quote-unquote soul food. There's always going to be traditional soul food places, but I think the emphasis in Harlem is going to be on how it's just going to keep expanding on the diversity.
Yeah, and evolving, right.
Other types of cuisine is what that are available within the community is what you're going to see.
That's a real good point, Lil, because I know last year we posted a couple of articles where in some of the housing projects and people that I know and I'm sure that you know, we have Chinese and Russian immigrants moving into the community. And, of course, immigrants moving in from all over the world who are not moving into, the housing projects or a condo, but they're moving into Harlem. Thank you. That's where I was going with that. So that makes sense what you're saying.
France and India and from all over the world. And so
you name it.
And so the soul that you will see will be just what has fusioned with what they've learned since they've been here. I think the Harlem Eat Up Festival, second year, next week. They've cut back on some things. It's actually dominated by just a few this year in terms of the dinners. But I think financially, it's out of 14 planned dinners, one's private, 10 are sold out. It's a hit. And there are 3 that they still have a few tickets available for.
A few,
but but just for 3 of the dinners out of their 14. So that, to me, okay, I'm an accountant. 10 out of 13, and include the one private one, that's 11 out of 13. It's a hit. The Saturday and Sunday stroll tickets are still available for that. But basically, 7 restaurants dominated out of those 14 dinners.
Food.
Okay, so
I love it.
There are some who I think that if you're looking for something different that you're going to see this year, they are going to have the Marching Cobras, which is a drum line and dance troupe from PS 123, right up on 140th in between 8th
nice.
and Edgecombe on Saturday. They've got their 15 minutes of fame at 3:15. It begins, and on Sunday, Vi Higginson's gospel choir will be performing. They have their 15 minutes. It begins at 12:30 p.m. on Sunday. However, let me state that most church folks are still in church, so we won't be able to partake in that. But they do have a free kids zone for kids with hands-on activities and things. They also, at the same time, are going to continue to have their cooking demonstrations on, I think, on both days, but realize it's a cooking demo. You won't be able to eat anything, which is one of the drawbacks of being at those things. Right. And the seating is on a first-come, first-served basis. But on both days, the interludes in between the cooking demos and the performances, you have DJ Stormin' Norman providing his musical, proudness for the crowds.
Yeah, and he has a great tradition of having those summer events with the Sunday sermon.
Yes, and they cut him down to two, and I went to both of them last summer, and they were fabulous. What I will tell you is this. Be it one of those who's doing the Sunday sermon and also over at Grant's Tomb for Jazzmobile on Wednesdays, I'd bring my own chair to the stroll so that I could make sure I had a seat at those events if I wanted to go.
That's definitely the way to do it. But before you go any further, I wanted to ask you, for someone who, has never been to the Harlem Eat Up, they've seen it from afar, not up close, and there are some free events. Any kind of, quick tips you have them for coming to the event? It sounds like one of them is what you just said, which is to bring your own chair.
That's right, because the chairs that they provide are on a first-come, first-served basis, and the only way you can make sure that you have a seat is to bring your own. Is what this says to me. But the main stage, the culinary demos, again, they're demos. They're not a tasting. I'd bring my own food if I couldn't afford to pay for the foods at the stroll, because you're at the main stage now. But I question, are they going to hand out, they say that the chefs are giving tips and recipes. Are they actually going to hand out any? I'd wonder about that. I want to see if they do. I think they should. But again, these are some of the free events that they have. Is at the main stage, and it's the culinary demo.
But you're saying, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just kind of paraphrasing what you were saying, which is to. But you're saying to bring some food just in case.
If I couldn't afford the $80 to get into the stroll, here's the question. Last year on Sunday, you could go through, even if you didn't pay the $80, but then you paid, if you didn't have the armband, then that meant you paid the price for whatever items you were going to be eating. And if you got a few dollars to go, but if I didn't have the money and I just had my chair and a desire to participate in at least watching the culinary demonstrations, I'd bring my own food. It's a part.
That makes sense. I mean, because otherwise it's going to be a tough day if you don't have food. You go into a food event and there's nothing there for you.
But when you go see Stormin' Norman, you bring your own. I mean, they sell stuff there, but most people I know come with their own food. Well, that's my OG crowd. The young people, they like buying the millennials. I'm sorry, but, we have
okay, Lil, you're making trouble now.
But we have a feast, me and my friends. Everybody brings something.
I know you do.
And so,
if my memory serves me correct, I've been to one of the feasts that you had, and it was just that.
People look at us and like, you made the mango salsa? I'm like, yes. I got some very ripe mangoes,
Right.
It's his.
Lil, as I mention to you, and as you already know, the time flies by, and we're at our last few minutes here, and I wanted to ask you we're going to post, when we post this on the site in a couple of hours after the show, we'll post links to all of your articles that you've written for us with this radio show. But do you have a website where people can also reach out to you? How can people stay in contact with you, Facebook or Twitter or your website?
Well, I have one. I'm like one of those people. I don't like multiple. So I have one email account that I'm in every day. And and you can provide that on it's LILNICK110 I am in the process of developing something, but that's for the program at a school that I've applied to. So until I get that, this is the email I answer every day. I look at every day. So and also HarlemWorldMag.com. Just leave your comments at the end of any of the articles that I write, and I definitely will get back to you with a response.
Certainly, and thank you. And you know that we love having you at HarlemWorldMag.com. And let me check real quick. We are at the 2-minute mark, and I wanted to ask you another question, and a question that I try to ask everyone that I speak to, and especially for you. This may not be a fair question, and I didn't prep you for it by sending it to you early, and I tried to strategically ask you, do you have a favorite food in Harlem? Maybe not so much a restaurant or place, but is there a favorite food that you like in Harlem?
Favorite food I like in Harlem?
I know it's tough.
A style, food cooked from scratch. And there are some days I'm heading over to 117th Street and Broadway to get some pot stickers from one of the Chinese vendors up on the court. They can't even speak English, and I can't speak their language, but I like their food.
But you can eat that food, right?
As well as the days that Sylvia's potato salad reminds me of my mother's. And when I'm in the mood for that, I'm going to go there and get that. It may be ribs. It may be fried chicken next to it. It might be both. Depends on what mood, but I always get that when I go there.
The potato salad.
But, because it just reminds me of my mom's.
Oh, no, I like some good potato salad.
Yeah,
especially if it's so good that you can put some gravy on it and it kind of kicks in a little bit more.
Yes, and I can remember having creamsicles at the bar every Friday night in my 20s there. And it's so, I'm just one of the people, I'm all over the charts when it comes to, and that's one of the reasons I go to all the different types of restaurants and food eating events that I go to. It all depends on what mood I'm in. I don't try to limit myself to any one type.
Well, Lil, it's
there for me.
Well,
and you too.
I'm sorry, I didn't. Huh?
I said it's all there for you or for me in terms of the diversity. Living in a place like New York City, like Harlem.
I know, and I love it. I love it. And, sadly, we're at that moment, and I want to thank you for being on the show and to sharing your love and passion for food in Harlem, and even more so, sharing it with our readers on HarlemWorldMag.com and other places, because I know you've done events a couple of months ago at Columbia. So I really thank you for the work that you've done, Lil. And Harlem thanks you. And I'll be speaking to you soon. Thank you, Lil Nickelson, writer of Dining with Miss Lil. You too, Lil. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay. Later.
Meet Davis.
Hi.
Davis is from Pollock, South Dakota.
Yep.
We took Davis from Pollock to fish for pollock in Alaska.
Sure did.
The same wild-caught pollock in a McDonald's Filet-O-Fish sandwich.
Uh-huh.
There were boats, nets, waves,
And fish.
and some delicious Filet-O-Fish sandwiches. So you could say Davis is one paw lucky guy.
Good one.
Thanks, Davis.
Catch some pollock of your own with McDonald's Filet-O-Fish Fridays. Just $1.99 for a limited time. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer or any combo meal.
Meet Davis.
Hi.
Davis is from Pollock, South Dakota.
Yep.
We took Davis from Pollock to fish for pollock in Alaska.
Sure did.
The same wild-caught pollock in a McDonald's Filet-O-Fish sandwich.
Uh-huh.
There were boats, nets, waves,
And fish.
and some delicious Filet-O-Fish sandwiches. So you could say Davis is one paw lucky guy.
Good one.
Thanks, Davis.
Catch some pollock of your own with McDonald's Filet-O-Fish Fridays. Just $1.99 for a limited time. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer or any combo meal.